Very good morning, Amulya. So, did you read the newspaper this week? Okay, so let's begin. I have got certain articles which are important to be covered. Let's begin the analysis. Okay, so it says that MSME needs tax breaks, better access to credit. Now, if you see, they are talking about MSMEs, and what are MSMEs? Your micro, small, medium enterprises. Now, they are saying that this needs tax break and better access to credits. Now, why was this MSME even brought? And again, this is going to act as one of the very important source for generating and creating employment. So MSME becomes important for your main section and GS paper 3. Now let's start with what is the issue with the MSMEs. Now, if I've just told you that this sector is very crucial. Why? Because close to 111 million people are employed in this sector. So you can imagine the data. 111 million people are employed in this sector. Then it is the second largest employer after agriculture. So we can't deny and we can't turn a blind eye to MSME, because this is again going to be very important sector, because it's second largest employer after agriculture. Other than that, what is happening is that this sector is contributing close to 28% of India's GDP. That means the contribution of this sector towards India's GDP is 28%. Right? Now, the point is that if this sector is this much important, so what is the contribution of the government in boosting the sector? So next is how is even government responding to the sector, and what is the efforts that is government making towards it? So firstly, government has started what MSME Samadhan. Now, what is MSME Samadhan? So this is a portal which is talking about monitoring the delays in payment to MSMEs. So delays in payment, so that the moral of the people who are involved in MSME doesn't go down in case if there is delay in payments. So this is one of the efforts. Then government is even providing support in the form of PMEGP. And what is this? This is Pradhan Mantri Employment Generation Program. That is Prime Minister's Employment Generation Program. And what is this program talking about? So this program is actually providing financial support. And financial support as in what case? For new MSMEs. And the maximum cost of this project. Yes, Amulya, you want to say something? You raised your hand just now. If you want, you can speak. There's no issue. Okay. Now, for new MSMEs, what is the effort? So, the maximum cost of the project was for rupees 25 lakh. That means, see, Prime Minister Employment Generation Program is going to provide financial support for new MSMEs. The maximum bill, the maximum cost of the project that could be borne by the MSMEs during that time could be 25 lakhs. Now, if you have a little bit of an idea regarding what that, which enterprises will be considered as micro, which enterprises will be considered as small and medium. So here will be what the classification of MSMEs. So let's discuss about the classification of MSMEs. Now, what was the classification of MSMEs? Initially. So all those micro enterprises, you must be knowing that in which the investment is less than 25 lakhs rupees in manufacturing sector, and less than 10 lakh of rupees in the service sectors. Now all those micro enterprises, all those enterprises will be considered as micro enterprises who have what an investment of less than 25 lakh rupees in the sector of manufacturing and less than 10 lakh of rupees in the sector of or in the service sectors. So all, initially, now this was the initial definition, or that was which was considered as the existing definitions. Fine. So this, now what about the small, because the name is micro, small, medium. So I talked about micro. Let's talk about the small enterprise. What about the small enterprises? So all those enterprises who have an investment of less than 5 crores in manufacturing sector and less than 2 crores in the service sector will be considered as what? Micro, and this will be considered as small enterprises. Now, this is the existing definition, or this is the existing classification of MSMEs. Next one is that, oh yeah, this one was small, this one was micro. Let's move on to the medium. In case of medium, if the investment is less than 10 crores in the section of manufacturing and less than 5 crores in the section of service, this was for the medium enterprises. So I have given you the existing classification of micro, small, medium enterprises. Now the point is that it was revised. This existing was revised, and the revised definition of micro, small, medium enterprises is again different. So for micro, the revised classification was investment for micro, it is less than 1 crores. This is the revised definition or the revised classification. In case of medium enterprise, it was in case of small enterprise, yes, in case of small enterprise, it was less than 10 crores, and in case of medium enterprise, it was less than 50 crores. Fine. So this is a brief background of MSME. Now the point is that what is the issue, or what are the problems that are coming with the existing classification of MSMEs. So what they are saying is that the definition of micro, small, medium enterprise of existing classification is very limited. And because the definition regarding, or you can say the classification regarding the amount is very limited, there are issues that they are pertaining regarding collateral free loans. So these enterprises are facing the issues of collateral free loans, and the reason being that these definitions or these existing structures are very limited. Fine. Now, further moving ahead, what has what has been changed, or you can say the new definition has introduced what changes. So as I told you, the definitions have been revised, the investment limit has been revised. So we can say that, okay, so we can say what are the changes that have been brought in. So one is that the investment limit has been increased because the investors or the MSMEs were facing what this issues of getting collateral free loans, etc. So what they are or what we have found is that the investment limit has been increased firstly. Other than that, there has been an additional criteria regarding what, that the definition has now included a point which is the annual turnover. That means the annual turnover of the MSME has been introduced. So I was just telling you about the investment factors. Another term which has been included in the revised classification of MSME is annual turnover. So annual turnover has been introduced. Next is that the distinction in manufacturing and the service sector has been done away. What do I mean by that? If you see, all through the time, I told you that if it's a manufacturing sector, the amount was less than 25 lakhs. If it was a service sector, the amount was less than 10 lakh rupees. And when I told you about the revised classification, in the revised classification, I told you what the amount is less than 1 crores for micro enterprises, and I never spoke about that whether it's for the manufacturing sector or it's for the service sector. Why? Because the classification or the difference between the manufacturing and service sector has been eliminated, and there is another thing that has been introduced in the revised classification of MSME, and that introduction is of annual turnover. That means now in the revised classification, we'll take note of the annual turnover of the enterprise or of the company. Fine. Okay. Now, initially also, I told you that these MSMEs are facing the issue of finance, and again I told you that the definition is so much limited regarding the investment section that the collateral free loans again becomes a big issue. So how is government ultimately making effort to bring them to a zone where access to finance becomes easy for these MSMEs? So now we'll discuss that what are the efforts by the government in order to bring or in order to make access to finance easy. So see, you must be knowing about one thing, that is PSL. And what is PSL? This is priority sector lending. Priority sector lending. Now, what is priority sector lending? So, this kind of has prioritized and has prioritized what? This has prioritized the sectors which should, which could, and these sectors are the one which would be made finance, or which would be to which the finance would be made easily readable, right? So, what are those sectors which are being prioritized? So, one is your agriculture, other one is the see, in agriculture they have also targeted certain farmers that are small and marginal farmers. And then we have in the PSL, that means agriculture, small and marginal farmers. Then we have micro enterprises, and we have weaker section, etc. Weaker section, etc. Fine. So at present, what is the scenario that is going on? At present, the thing is that the overall target of Universal Bank is 40%. And what is this target comprises of? That these 40% is coming from the Universal Bank. That means they will be providing the, this much of section for lending. Other than that, for small finance banks, SFBs, small finance bank, the amount of section that has been accorded to them is 75%. Okay, so one is for Universal Bank, one is for the small finance bank. Okay, so this was a brief idea about what are the issues that MSMEs are facing, how government is making efforts to actually, meet the challenges that are coming on the way of MSMEs, what changes have been brought as compared to the things that were there in past. Then, other than all this, there are certain recommendations that have been coming from the committees, and owing to those recommendations, these changes were made. So, what was one such recommendation? So, one such recommendation was coming from your UK Sinha committee. So, if you ever get time, you can read about UK Sinha committee. The recommendations that this committee has been providing for, especially for the MSME segment. Fine. Okay. Now, let's move on to the second article. Okay, so the second article says that rising tension in the Korean Peninsula. Now, what are what is the tension in the Korean Peninsula? So, if you see the figure, so if you see the map, I have made it clear that this is the region of North Korea, and this is the region of South Korea. And then you see what they are separated, and they are separated. Just a minute. Okay, so they are separated, and when they are separated from each other, that means the North Korea is close to China, and then you have the South Korea. Now, what are the tensions in the Korean Peninsula? So, see, what happened was that the North Korea had a goal. And what was that goal? So the goal was, goal of North Korea was to reunify the South, the South Korea. So the goal of the North Korea was to reunify the South. So what happened at present is that North Korea has, in fact, Mr. Kim has actually addressed in, in the assembly, proclaiming what that the this goal, this goal has been scrapped, and now North Korea is considering South Korea or rebranding South Korea again as an enemy state. Now, North Korea is always supported or has been consistently supported by China. And what is the reason? See, they, or you can say, why China is, so supportive of North Korea, because China is considered to be one of the big trading partner for North Korea, right? And when there were tension with this in the Korean Peninsula, so what happened was that China has been very expressive about what the unwavering support that China will be providing to the North Korea. So probably this is the reason why Mr. Kim has addressed it in assembly that the goal of reunifying the South with the North Korea has been scrapped, and now he's looking towards what that South Korea is again going to be the enemy state for the North Korea. Right. So this was regarding the tensions in the Korean Peninsula. Okay, now moving towards the next article, issues with EVs and possible hybrid solution. Well, I have been talking about electric vehicles for past so many months. Now, the point is that this article is talking about the issues with EVs, the electric vehicles. Fine. So, according to research, when you will, go through this article, you'll find that there has been a research that has been conducted, and what they this research has shown that overall the carbon emissions are quite low in hybrids. Hybrid means all those vehicles who are operating under hybrid mode to be very less, or you can say are lower as compared initially. So now if you see the carbon emissions from the hybrids are lower, that pretty much says what that India should definitely work towards, or you can say the fact that you are having this low carbon emission. So India should very resiliently work towards bringing what battery electrics. Okay, so India should definitely work towards this, and now working is not an issue. The main issue here is like if we go for battery electrics, how we should ultimately make or bring this rapid transformation. That means if you are thinking of bringing rapid adoption of or rapid adoption of the battery electrics, what is the things that the government should target, or for that matter the administration should always think for it. So from here we can say the rapid adoption of electric vehicles could be, could start, or you can say how, how speedy it will ultimately begin is. So first they say that you need to work towards what? Charging networks. See, whatever you are planning in the case of transportation, you firstly need to build on to the networks. Now, based on this fact that how the charging network should be built on, so there was an analysis that was brought in, and that analysis was brought in by World Bank. And what did this analysis talked about? So the World Bank said that you need to invest in charging infrastructure. So this is not what I am saying. This is not something it is not coming from the Indian media, etc. It is coming from the World Bank, and the World Bank is saying that invest in charging infrastructure. And when you are investing in charging infrastructure, this should be between 4 to 7 times more effective. And once you start investing in the charging infrastructure, this is what World Bank report says, that this is going to be 4 to 7 times more effective in ensuring what, that people are moving towards what, EV adoption, or you can say electric vehicle adoption. Fine. So one is your charging network. Now the point, other thing that is going to work is electricity source. That means, okay, charging infrastructure is fine. You can build the, networks, the infrastructure, but the point is, where are you going to generate so much of electricity? So in several countries, what is happening is that they are getting relied more towards the, or they are getting more dependent on renewable sources of energy. And how do I know this? See, Norway has 99% of hydroelectric power. So when Norway is have operating through 99% of hydroelectric power, so you can understand their source of electricity generation. And for India, how it is, in for India, it is going to be very difficult to switch to renewable sources of energy. And for that, again, you require a lot of effort. So that need to be kept in mind. Now, other than that, I told you about that we should move towards battery electrics. Now, when you are moving towards battery electrics, you need to keep in mind that your this lithium batteries are very famous. And now, when lithium batteries are famous, then you have to have a close linkage, or you need to have what? A global value chain. And this global value chain is talking about what? Lithium batteries, or lithium battery supplies. Fine. So electrics, I understand we require electricity source. What about batteries? Batteries, we require what? A global value chain of lithium. Lithium. So lithium batteries again. Now we need to work on the network. We need to work on electricity generation. We need to work on electric batteries. Now batteries, that means lithium battery supplies. Okay. So now when I talked about lithium battery supplies, then definitely somewhere or other, the demand of the lithium batteries would be increasing. Now whenever you check your these cell phones, you'll find that the demand of lithium batteries in India is continuously growing. So when it is growing, that means this is a report that is coming from CAGR, and this report is talking about what, that there has been more than 30% demand of lithium ion batteries coming from India. So initially also there was demand of lithium ion batteries, but once we started switching towards electric vehicles, what we found was that this demand for lithium ion batteries has risen by 30%. So whatever it was, and at present it has increased by 30%. So you can ultimately understand how we are eventually transforming towards hybrid vehicle. And when we are transforming towards hybrid vehicle, we have a set of challenges there, and we need to be ready in order to meet those challenges. So this was regarding EVs. Now let's move on to the next article. So the next article says price of distortion. Government's move takes fertilizer industry back to full control era before introduction of nutrient based subsidy system. Okay, so uh, this article is talking about fertilizer subsidy. Now, what is fertilizer subsidy? And what is the need to study fertilizer subsidy? Initially, also we should understand that if agriculture is one of the major section which is preferably considered for employment. So when I relate agriculture, then we get fertilizer as one of the subject to it. So first we need to know that how fertilizers are subsidized in India. So for that we need to understand eventually what is a fertilizer, who do you consider, or what kind of fertilizers are there in India? We have urea, right? We have this potassium fertilizer. We have, and what are those fertilizers who are non-urea based? So if I go with urea based fertilizer, that means we have another section which is non-urea based fertilizer. So if there's a non-urea based fertilizer, then is fertilizer subsidy considered for both urea section and non-urea section? So that need to be understood. So firstly, let's understand this fact that we have two kinds of fertilizers. And what are those two kinds of fertilizers? First is your urea based fertilizer, Then you have non-urea based fertilizer. Now, when I say urea based fertilizer, it is basically the nitrogen one. And when I talk about non-urea fertilizer, it is the potassium and the phosphorus one. Okay, now let's move on to how these fertilizers are subsidized, because that becomes important. Um, we have considered urea based fertilizer, we have considered non urea based fertilizers. Now, when I'm talking about subsidies, then how urea based fertilizers are subsidized and how non urea based fertilizers are subsidized. So, when I consider urea based fertilizer, what is urea based fertilizer? Now see, over the time, government has segregated these fertilizers and have subsidized them through separate mechanisms. That means both these fertilizers have been separately subsidized. Now, when they are separately subsidized, so let's study that how is the subsidy working for urea based and how the subsidies are working for the non urea based. Fine. Okay, so let's move on to urea based. Now, under this, what is happening is the MRP of urea is fixed. That means the subsidy of urea based fertilizer, the MRP of urea is fixed, and it is fixed by who? By the government of India. Now the difference is calculated. Difference is calculated between what? The difference is calculated between the MRP and the cost of production. And this cost of production is for what? The cost of production of urea fertilizer. Now, when cost of production of urea fertilizer, this is separated from the MRP. Whatever whatever the difference is there, now this difference is provided to manufacturing company, and this is what this difference is considered as subsidy. So now this is how urea-based fertilizers are subsidized. Now further moving towards the non-urea-based fertilizer, or you can say this non-urea-based fertilizers are also known as nutrient-based fertilizer. So this was urea, and then this is non-urea-based fertilizer. Fine. Now, in non-urea based fertilizer, what happens is the market prices of these fertilizers are often deregulated. So, the price or the MRP, or you can say the market price of these fertilizer, the market price of these fertilizers are deregulated. So what happens is, in this case, the manufacturers are, free to decide. They are free to decide what market price they want to sell the respective fertilizer. That means all the non-urea fertilizer can be sold at a respective market price, which can be freely decided by the manufacturer. Now, when they sell this fertilizer in the market, how is how the government is going to provide subsidy to them? So the government is providing them fixed subsidy. Fine. So this fixed subsidy. Now here you see, I told you that there is a difference between the MRP and the cost of production of urea fertilizer. And here I am telling you that there is a fixed subsidy that government will be providing to the manufacturers. Fine. Uh, this fixed subsidy is decided as in what scenario? Now, this fixed subsidy is calculated based on how much is the weight. That means depending upon the kgs. Fine. So this is how the subsidies are separately decided for the urea based fertilizer and for the non-urea based fertilizer. The non-urea based fertilizers are considered as what? Nutrient based. And when they are subsidized, they have a fixed subsidy that is coming from the government of India. Now we have another example coming on our way. And what is that example? That is, we are having DBT in fertilizer. And what is DBT? DBT is your direct benefit transfer in fertilizers. So here what is happening under this system, farmers are getting what? Farmers would continue to get fertilizers at subsidized price. Now, in this scenario, that means in the direct benefit transfer scenario, when the farmers are getting the fertilizers at subsidized price, they will continue to get these fertilizers at subsidized price. But what about the company or the manufacturing company that is providing them the fertilizer? So they will, receive subsidy. Who? The company, the manufacturing company, they will receive subsidy once it is sold to the farmers. That means they will only get the subsidies once these fertilizers are sold to the farmers. Fine. Okay. So this was about the overview how the subsidy or the subsidized system works. Now, further moving, what is the issue of fertilizer subsidy? Issue of fertilizer subsidy. Now, see, what is happening is, uh, here I told you that the manufacturers are free to decide. So what you see is that regulation becomes one of the issue with the fertilizer subsidy. Second issue that the manufacturing industry is facing regarding fertilizer is that the customs duty, the basic custom duty, the GST of these fertilizers are much more than the raw materials. That means, the raw materials that have been used for these production of the fertilizers, they have been facing what? See, we have used the raw materials. Now we have manufactured the fertilizer. Now the basic custom duty and GST rates are much higher as compared to the raw material. So ultimately what is happening is we are finding an issue of inverted duty structure. Fine. So one thing is this. Other than that, the fertilizer subsidies are very regressive. And why am I saying that these fertilizer subsidies are very regressive? Now, see, I am saying it on the basis that what are we studying? We are studying about fertilizer and subsidy. Now, all those rich farmers who are there, they will be buying much more fertilizers as compared to the small and marginal farmers because they have a large land holdings. Now, when they have a large land holdings and they are doing a lot of agriculture over here, so don't you think that these farmers are ultimately getting a lot of fertilizers at subsidized rate? And the benefit had to be given to the small and marginal farmers, and we ended up giving these benefits to the strong and large holding farmers. So again, this is one of the issues of fertilizer subsidy, that this has turned out to be very regressive onto small and marginal farmers, because we ended up providing much more to the large farmer holders. Fine. Okay. Other than this, what has been government's effort in order to check these issues? So one effort, you must be knowing about what soil health card. So in agriculture section, we have been talking about soil health card, and this soil health card is being brought for what matter? See, certain soils require less of these nutrients as compared to some who require a lot. So in that case, you need to give that much of fertilizer to that section of the farmer or to the section of the land. In case if you give excess of it, it would not be beneficial, rather it will cause a lot of harm. So for that matter, soil health card is going to bring in what? Now this is going to promote balance use, and balance use of fertilizers. Balance use of fertilizer. Fine. Now we there is a new concept that is coming in, and that new concept is talking about nano urea. With time, there's less of data which is available right now for nano urea. Once this concept flourishes, we'll talk much more about it. It is just in it's there in initial stages. So you should know about this nano urea, but we'll discuss much more in detail if there's any editorial coming perspective regarding this nano urea. Okay, fine. Let's move on to the next article. Stay calm and build on strength. Now, what is this talking about? Now, this becomes very important with your international relations section. And this says what? Stay calm, build on strengths. China's economic slowdown is an opportunity for India. So, firstly, we are witnessing what? China's economic slowdown. Then it must avoid the nationalist hubris that has undermined Beijing's fortunes. That means the author, Mr. Raja Mandla, uh, yeah, C. Raja Mohan by C. Raja Mohan. They have talked about what? They have talked about all the kind of obstacles that have been countered, or you can that has been faced by the Beijing's. India should avoid that. So we'll be talking about the avoids in order to avoid. In order to avoid any misfortune. Avoids for misfortune. Okay, now let's see what is C. Raja Mohan has been talking about. So, C. Raja Mohan has been saying what that because there has been a change in global the scenarios have been a lot changed. So what is happening is because of a lot of change in the scenarios, there has been change in the dynamics of the global power. That means the global power dynamic is changing, and when this global power dynamic is changing, what we have found is there has been less of China's dominance. That means we have witnessed very less of China's dominance, and what is the reason behind this? So they say the author is saying that the consequences of China's slowdown has been because there has been a very growing gap, and gap between what? Growing gap between the two powers. And who are those two powers? One is US and China. Now when two powers have witnessed uh, change in the trajectory, or you can say they have witnessed what a lot of difference between each other. So this has led to what? This has led to growing of scope, and growing of scope for who? Growing of scope for India. Now, when you witness this growing of scope for India, so what are the opportunities that India will be getting? Because there has been a backlash for China. So one opportunity that India will be getting is that India can actually maximize its strength, and maximize strength In which area? So in area of technology and military power. Fine. So see, India has a lot of strength to build up and actually to boom in this section of technology and military power. So this is what the author is talking about. That since China is witnessing a economic slowdown, India can actually take advantage of this section and maximize their strength in the fields of technology and military power. Now, when India can maximize its strength in the area of technology and military power, what is going to happen? Now, this will lead to an opportunity. And opportunity, why? Because now we have got a market, and now when we get a market, a very broad market, in order to increase our global economy. Fine. So the whole emphasis of the author here is that initially, China was considered as one of the major, not even major, but one of the leading center of market. So one of the leading center of the market for from the Asian region. Now because there has been change in what global power, or there has been change in the dynamics of the global power, you will find that this has brought other sections also into power. And who are those other sections? So India is one in the race, and primarily the top one in the race. Then we have Indonesia, then we have Vietnam, then we have Philippines. Fine. Uh, this is what the article is talking about, and Mr. Raja Mohan has said that India has a huge potential, and probably this could be one of the reasons when India can actually take over China and economically be powerful in future. This is what Mr. Raja Mohan's take is uh, about the India competing with China. Okay, so let's move on to. I have covered international relations, I have covered subsidy, I have covered EVs, I have covered tensions in Korean Peninsula, I have covered the MSME section. Now let's move on to the next section, and it says populism does not help public health. Fine. And what is the author here talking about? So the name of the author is Dr. C. Arvinda, and the person is saying that in the heart of the India's bustling cities and tranquil villages, there is a silent but significant fight raging on public health front. That means the author has said it's not only about the big cities, but also the villages, and both of them are facing what? Fight against public health. So now let's do a deeper analysis what is the issue all behind. So here you will find that the author is very much concerned about the health sector, and we have been constantly talking about the health sector in our country. So one issue that author has pointed out that there is quite insufficient fund allocation towards the health sector. So one issue is of financial allocation. Financial allocation from administrative section. Fine. The other thing that the author has pointed out that somehow or other the country is always facing a shortage of doctors. Now, one day in the Indian society class, I was discussing about so many graduates, every year get influx in the country, and it's not only about engineers or bachelors of arts. I also talked about the law professionals who are being constantly increasing, and then there was this one guy who said that, ma'am, even law has become the same the scenario that law is witnessing is similar to what bachelors in technology had been witnessing back in 2015 and 16. So we are talking about so many graduates coming in. There's a lot of influx in the country, and then in health sector we are saying that we are facing what shortage of doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals. Fine. So we are facing shortage of doctors and other healthcare professionals. Now, in most of the scenario, what happened is that people tend to avoid hospitals. Why? Because once you get into the hospital, even if you have a minor cold, it is going to be it is going to burn your pocket. So what I mean to say is that this is also leading to what out of pocket expenditure. So a lot of people actually you know die from elements. Why? Because of out of pocket expenditure that is they are going to witness. So this leads to issue in the health sector. Now, this again I have discussed in class that with a lot of unemployment in the region, what we have been seeing is that there is a certain section that has witnessed a boom. And what is that boom? Suddenly there are a lot of MSMEs, suddenly there is a lot of manufacturing companies coming in, and that is exactly what is happening in the pharmaceutical industry also. So you see pharmaceutical industries are there, and now these pharmaceutical industries, I don't think so that all of them are going to operate out of benevolence, but majority of them are operating out of what profit motives. Now, when they operate out of profit motives, what is happening? There is a nexus that is operating. And what is what is this all nexus about? So the nexus is between the pharmaceutical manufacturing companies and the doctor, or you can say the professionals. Fine. So in health segment, this segment is now basically operating with what intention? Instead of providing a welfare society, instead of providing social justice, we are bent towards socio-economic parameters. Fine. Now, see, one of the scenarios again, what we witness is that all those highly qualified and efficient doctors, they always prefer for places where they'll gain more of experience, and that will be productive for their career graph. So, what is happening is again, I have considered two places. One is your city areas and village. Now, if those people are opting for the city areas, and again the villages are going on the backdrop, and when villages are going on the backdrop, what do you think what is going to happen? Now 80% of the healthcare professionals that are practicing in the rural India are actually people who are having no formal qualifications. So 80% of healthcare practitioners practicing in rural India have no formal qualification. Fine. So yeah, they have no formal qualifications. Now again, one issue is with the policy making. Now who are the policy makers? They are precisely the one who are there in your administrative sections, and who are there in the legislature section. Now this policy making again needs people who have expertise in the respective subject. So when I talk about public health segment, our public policy making requires people in the section who have expertise in this section. So again, policy making which are favorable for the people becomes an issue. Fine. Now, if I talk about, are there any government schemes, or you can say policies, that have been operating in the counterparts of public health? So we have we know about this Ayushman Bharat Yojana. So one that has been there is Ayushman Bharat Yojana. So government has made efforts so as to prioritize public health. So Ayushman Bharat Yojana is one of this. Then we have National Health Mission. Then we have what? Other than that, we have been talking about Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana. So again, this is operating somewhere in Ayushman Bharat Yojana, that is Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana. Fine. So, other than this, this was regarding public health of people, you can say, about a certain age, but then we have issues with the children's also, because we have been facing issues regarding child stunting, we have been facing issues regarding child mortality rate. So how are we going to deal with those? So India has even talked about Ocean Abhiyan. So under this, what is happening? There is integrated child development service. Fine. Now this could be done in detail. Everything is there. They deal with the concept of the breastfeeding. Then uh, in this, what you are, this is something which I'm saying that could be prioritized if we want, even though it is not there, but we can prioritize this concepts and include it. We can widen the definition of that. In that way, this could be beneficial. This is something which I consider it to be. Might People might not agree with it, so that's their take anyways. So this is the effort of the government towards children's also. Fine. So this is what the author is talking about. The author has told about the issues. This Then the author has told about the cases of the dengue that has been witnessed. Then when the cases of dengue has been witnessed, how the health segment has worked towards it. How public health has been a matter of important to be matter of importance to be discussed. So these are some of them. Now let's move on to the next article. The next article says that early nutrition impacts cognitive development. So, early nutrition impacts cognitive development. Now, this early nutrition impacts cognitive development is also dealing with what, how the children's health should be improved. So I have just discussed about that in public health system. I have talked about the stunting issue. I have talked about India's strategy with respect to Poshan Abhiyan and integrated child development. Fine. Then this also talks about what child development services, etc. So this article is more about what children's health. Fine. Okay. Now the next thing that is there, it talks about the new public-private partnership to grow seafood outside the sea. Outside the sea. Now, if we are talking about public-private partnership to grow seafood outside the sea, then in this is coming on our way, primarily because there must have been demand of seafood. Now, when there is demand of seafood, they have said that there is a new public-private partnership to grow. That means the growing of seafood which is outside the sea. So, if it is uh, outside the sea, that means they are majorly focusing on what? Lab grown seafood. Now, lab grown seafood, and majorly it's lab grown meat. Fine. Now, what is this article talking about? Again, the article has been very interesting, and this becomes very important for your GS paper 3 and with respect to the marine section and all. So, what is the article talking about? The article is basically going to discuss with you what is this lab grown fish? Why do we even require this? So, let's see what is a lab grown meat. And this is lab grown fish. This is what they're talking about. So what is a lab grown meat or lab grown fish? The lab grown fish is explained by the author as a lab grown meat or cultivated or cultured meat. So how is eventually the process of lab growing going to take place? So the process of lab growing is produced by isolating what? So they will isolate, and they will isolate what? They will isolate specific cells. So they will isolate specific cells, and this isolation of specific cells is happening from where? The specific cells from who? From fish. And these specific cells are now grown in laboratory. Now when these specific cells are grown in laboratory, so how will eventually a fish that could be grown in laboratory. So they say that this is possible by using media, and this is free of this. By using medium, I mean medium, some kind of mediums, which is free from any animal components. So it is not media that is a general media, but the media that is required, the medium that is required, which will be free from the animal components. Fine. So what is the final product? So they say that the final product is that means, see, you have this fish there in nature. So, what is the difference between the fish that you will be probably getting, from the lab? That means the meat that you will be getting from the lab, and the fish that you are getting from, the natural environment. So, what will be the difference? So, the final product that you will see, or you will, find in the lab grown, which is lab grown, is the exact replica, and this will have the exact replica. Like, in what sense? So you will have the similar flavor, you will have the similar texture, you will have similar nutritional qualities with respect to what? With respect to the one you have in real fish meat. Fine. Now, the point is that okay, we can go ahead with these things, but who will, be taking the in charge of it? Who will be the agencies who will be guiding this? Then ultimately, the products that are formed and when you have this, what what is the scenario in the global area or the global arenas. So all this thing need to be kept in mind. So let's see the one who are collaborating for this. So there is going to be an MOU, that is the memorandum of understanding, and this is signed between who? ICRA. And ICRA is what? Your central, between ICRA and, just a minute, yeah, between ICRA and your CMFRI. So these two are the agencies. Now, when these two agencies are going to have a MOU, then what is this CMFRI about? So it is a Central Marine Fisheries. So Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute. Research Institute. So ICRA is there, CMFRI is there, and Delhi-based Neat Biotech. Neat Biotech. And what is it for? To grow fish. To grow fish need in laboratory. Now this this is going to be a very innovative thing. Why? Because this is the first initiative of its kind that is coming in the country. So growing this lab grown fish meat is the first initiative which is coming in the country. So let's see how it works out. These are something which is important with respect to your prelim section also, because the respective agencies that are involved. Then with respect to your main section also, that how this industry is going to contribute towards boosting of the economy. So let's talk about what is there in the global scenario. Now, in the global scenario, what is happening is that we have Israel, which has been working for the lab grown seafood. Then Singapore is there. We have US. We have China also in the race. So we have China also in the race. Okay. So this is something you should know about the lab grown meat. Now let's move on to the next segment. The next segment or the next article comprises of what? Let's see. Green aviation fuel yet to take off. Now they are saying what? Green aviation and fuel. That means some kind of sustainable aviation fuels that we are going to refer to. Sustainable aviation fuels. Now, sustainable aviation fuels. Now, what is what is this entire article about? So, this article is written by Miss Richa Mishra, and she is talking about what SAF. That means the sustainable aviation fuel. This is going to provide you what? A big potential for growth. And why am I saying that this is going to provide a good potential for growth? Because to decarbonize the aviation sector, a long-term policy on SAF is needed. Now, what is SAF all about? So, sustainable aviation fuel is a biofuel, and this biofuel is a kind of fuel which will have similar similar characteristics as compared to your conventional jet fuels, aviation fuels that are there. The only benefit that we'll find with respect to biofuel and the conventional fuel is that this SAF, that means your sustainable aviation fuel, is going to reduce your carbon footprints. So once your carbon footprints are reduced, that means somewhere or other your greenhouse gases emissions are also being checked. Okay, now the point is that when we are talking about these fuels, what is probably the ambition or we are thinking about? So we are talking about or we are thinking about some ambitious targets. Now, what are those ambitious targets? Firstly, we want to achieve what? Net zero emissions. And in order to have this net zero emission target achieved by 2050, there is a very high urgency regarding what, that we switch to sustainable aviation fuel for long haul flights. Now, is government of India thinking something about it? So yes, government of India has been making policies, and policies regarding what, that 1% of sustainable aviation fuel should be focused with respect to what, in order to have this sustainable aviation fuel, we need to focus on sugarcane, alcohol to jet pathways. Okay, now the very important thing is that switching is not something which we require thinking of, but what about the cost? So right now the cost of the sustainable aviation fuel is 3 to 4 times much more than the conventional aviation fuel. So now this becomes one of the hindrance towards switching to sustainable aviation fuels. Okay, so then we have okay, the this one was the one. Now this is the last article that we have, that is the RBI guidelines on the state guarantees. Now what is the state guarantees all about? It is the guarantees that the state is providing to kind of to state for what. Now a guarantee is a contingent liability of a state processed by an accessory contract that protects the lender investor from the risk of borrowers defaulting. That means the whole article is all about defaulting. So you should know what here you should know is about the RBI guidelines. Okay, so I'm short of time now, and this much was for today. Okay, I hope so. The article is all clear. Amulya, anything you didn't understood, you can ask me in class. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.